Nunsense by Flying Lizards, Fandoms, Daredevil TV, The Punisher TV. Summary. Frank Castle meets a nun at St. Agnes after bringing a wayward teenager back to it. Sister Maggie is not happy about this. The stitches on his leg pull uncomfortably through every movement, and he regrets his fucking need to go out and cause mayhem when he is stressed. Now he is facing the consequences. There are worse coping mechanisms, he assumes. He didn't have to use the penchant for self-destruction before, just destruction in general. Frank's overly conscious of his pounding heart beating rhythmically from his chest to his head and sending his headache up several notches. He rubs his fingers together and feels the grind that came from the sweat and dirt. It's been a not too shitty night by his standards, and he can't wait to pass once he gets to his nearest safe house, the one that has a cockroach infestation but great water pressure. So that's a plus. The smell of the docks is sharp, and he can feel the strong smog curling inside his lungs after every breath. He wonders if this is how Matt feels constantly. Completely aware of his surroundings and internalizing every single detail, perceiving them viscerally. That poor fucker. He is now nearing an apartment complex. Most buildings are run down and abandoned, glassless windows and dark rooms. So a sudden shriek breaking the silence sends him into alert. He follows it quickly and soon begins to limp for his sudden sprint. At the door, there is a girl screaming profanities indignantly to a guy who is holding her by the wrist. A couple's dispute? Frank comes closer and reads the situation. The man looks several years older and is sneering down at her. The girl tries to punch him when he yanks her inside. She plants her feet on the ground and doesn't move. There are laughs coming from inside, and suddenly another guy appears. Without prompting, the new arrival grabs her by the hair and smashes her head against the door without dropping his smirk. Frank breathes shallowly. "Hey!" he shouts. Both men turn on him. The girl is cradling her head, kneeling on the ground and sobbing softly. Frank doesn't say more and pounces on the first guy, breaks his nose, and punches him in the throat for good measure, leaving him gasping while he tries to escape. The other guy pulls a gun from behind. Frank takes it away from him and shoots and knees him in the groin. He grabs him by the hair and smashes his head against a wall. Once. Twice. Again and again and again. The body crumbles, leaving a trail of blood down the wall into the floor. Frank is panting. His ears are buzzing. The pounding of his heart is stronger than before and now even painful. The world comes back into focus slowly. He dazedly realizes the first guy escaped. A whimper brings him back down to earth. The girl is looking up at him. She hasn't moved, but she's stopped crying. Oh my God. She is just a girl, with her shiny and well-cared-for hair. Badly applied mascara now running down her cheeks that shows some residual of baby fat. Her lips are bitten, her eye is swollen. Can't be older than 15. Renewed anger flares up and burns on his throat. He wishes he killed the other guy as well, but instead of tracking him, he kneels in front of her, keeping his distance. "You alright?" he croaks. That's enough to send her into another crying fit. She doesn't move, though, away or near him. She curls into herself and hand covering half her face and muffles her own sobs with the other. She's a skinny little thing, and her clothes don't cover enough for this chill night. Frank pulls off his jacket and hands it to her, and offers it to her. After a quick glance, she hesitates and accepts it. Once on, she wrinkles her nose. Frank chuckles. "Yeah, it's been a long day, and cheap deodorant can only go so far," he whispers, doing his best to look sheepish and harmless. The girl gives him a watery smile. "You want to call the police?" She shakes her head. "Yeah, I thought so. Got anybody else to call? Your parents?" She shakes her head again. "My foster parents introduced me to that douchebag," she murmurs weakly. "They must have known." Frank frowns and keeps his anger down. "So nobody?" he asks, making plans in his head. Maybe he could call in some favors. Make contact with Micro. Ask him to hack into the system so they send her somewhere decent. Go to Curtis. He'd be up to help him somehow. The girl opens her mouth, looks away, and says, Saint Agnes. What's that? Orphanage. I was there before. The nuns, they might take me in tonight. She glances at him. They're nuns, so they have to, right? Yeah, surely. He lends her his burner and she makes a quick call. They pick up at the third try. She winces and nods at something the other person is saying, as if they were in front of her. She looks chastised but calmer. Frank walks her back, covering his limp the best he can. He asks for her name, and she says it is Amanda. Doesn't give him a last name. The orphanage is far away from his safe house, but he tries not to care about it. They stop in front of the church, and there's a tiny older woman with glossy dark curls waiting for them in her nightgown. Her expression is severe, but Frank can read her anxiety in her posture. She goes a short power walk towards them, and despite her brusque movements, she holds Amanda's face delicately, examining her wound. She turns and frowns and looks up at him, and Frank almost feels intimidated. Frank Castle. He doesn't show his surprise at her recognizing him so easily. Ma'am. The woman stares at him disapprovingly, but then nods suddenly. Suddenly. Thank you. He jerks his head and walks away 2 steps, and there's a hand holding him back. It's the woman. You are hurt. I'm fine. Nonsense, you're limping. He sucks in a breath, trying to drown out his own irritation. Listen, lady, She smacks him on the thigh. Frank muffles a shout of pain and almost loses his balance. He glares, gritting his teeth. She raises a delicate eyebrow before saying, You are coming with me. Now. And turns away, walking gracefully with her chin wrist high. Amanda is snickering. The sound makes Frank feel a little bit less mad. That's Sister Margaret for you, she explains and hastily follows the nun. It's dark inside the orphanage, and Frank feels like he was pulled some decades back in time. The wood floor croaks, and there's a chill permeating the air. Might be the winter nearing them. It might be ghosts. Sister Margaret hauls Amanda onto a cot and cleans her face with well-practiced movements. Then she instructs her to go find an ice pack and a pajama from the charity basket. She'll be sleeping in the infirmary tonight, and tomorrow they'll fix this mess. Once Amanda is gone, she turns to Frank and points at him with a look. What are you waiting for? Sit. He does. Now you remove your pants and show me the wound. It's a bit more than a bruise, sister, he warns, which only seems to irritate her more. The whole situation feels faintly hilarious to Frank. It's been years since someone's had the balls to try to tell him what to do, and none of them made him feel like he was going to get in trouble if he didn't. Also, none of them looked like a 5'4" sleep-deprived nun, irradiating displeasure at his everything. So he pulls off his pants with the most defiant he can muster on his jerky movements. Once the wound is exposed, she frowns more deeply. You are a fool. She pulls out the med kit, cleans his wound, gets rid of the ripped stitches and sews him back up, puts gauze on. All in record time. She slaps his thigh again. He flinches and growls at her. Fool, she reiterates. Once he is leaving, she says to his back, Thank you. And then, I don't ever want to see you again. A bit more than a week later, he sees her again, at a pharmacy half an hour before midnight. He's buying antibiotics. She's buying diapers, plus some other things. Frank's been lurking around lately, trying to catch sight of Daredevil now that he's back on his bullshit, and making sure Amanda is doing alright. Sister Margaret catches his eyes and stares at him inquiringly. Stares at him inquiringly, I'm a guess. Frank glances at the bags on her arms and offers to carry them for her. Sister Margaret rolls her eyes but hands them to him. You better not drop a thing, and hide your face, you look like a criminal. Frank thinks about the new scar on his jaw, his black eye, and splitting lip, and shrugs, following her up to the poorly lit streets. She seems pissed. Were you born with that face, or did life carve it for you? He barks a laugh. Fate couldn't keep herself from chiseling it with a drill. The nun smiles faintly, looking away. He asks about Amanda. She's all right. Sometimes she talks about him. She's staying at St. Agnes a little longer until they can find a better place. The police are looking after the case, so he doesn't need to sulk around. You don't like vigilantes. I don't like killers. He smiles wildly. If more people were involved in this, they might come after Amanda. I'm just making sure. We don't need your kind here, Mr. Castle. Our orphanage and church are under protection. I don't think God's protection can do much, sister. She smiles openly now. I wasn't talking about him. This is Hell's Kitchen, after all. Amanda waves at him on the other side of the street. She's accompanied by another girl around her age. Frank nods and then walks away. Night Mass finished hours ago, yet Frank remains outside to the church, looking hesitant. He hasn't gone to Mass in years. Clinton church has that appear that all old churches do. The illusion of standing on holy ground. Frank wonders if it's the smell of candles and varnish on wood that does it. The devil's shape perched above the building is fixated on him. Frank whispers an obscenity as a greeting, knowing he'll be heard. Matt's shoulders are shaking like they do when he laughs but is trying not to. He doesn't hear Sister Margaret's footsteps until she's a few feet away. She moves stealthily, even to his trained ears. Sister Beatrice says that a vagrant was standing outside our gates. Sister Janice suggested that it might be the Lord pretending to be a homeless man to test our magnanimity. She said the last part with distaste, looking tempted to roll her eyes. What was your guess? A fool. It's almost tense that when he hears a familiar voice calling names. He sees Sister Margaret trailing around two kids at the park he's been killing time at. She feels him looking and stares back. She calls another nun and says something to her, and then she trails directly to Frank's bench. Sister, he greets. I know from trusted sources you are incredibly surly, and yet we meet fairly often. So we do. Pure coincidence, I assure you. She judgmentally stares him down. There's something familiar about her, in the inflection of her voice. It becomes more and more pronounced the more he meets her. Frank can't quite pinpoint what or why. It is somehow soothing, and it isn't so bad when they coincide in the same place. She sits primly by his side and raises an eyebrow at her. She copies the gesture mockingly. My feet are killing me. I've been chasing after children the entire day. She explains. Been there. My kids would run me ragged if I gave them the chance. The only game they could both play without fighting is Daddy the Noble Steed. He smiles wistfully before adding, It's a good thing what you do here, mothering all these kids. It's the least I can do, she whispers. It feels like a secret. Frank doesn't comment on it. She tells him about the latest incident caused by a troublemaker. He tried to clean the stain out with bleach, and now the carpet is stained a hideous yellow before it was all dark blues. Frank tells her he did the same thing as a kid with a towel. He decided he might as well die the whole damn thing anyway at the end. It ended up with some orange atrocity. It was peaceful until the sun finally hides. Mr. Maggie then herds the children with ease back from practice. Daredevil's white teeth are unmistakable in the dark when he gives Frank that shitty little grin that always comes out when Frank does something good or some bullshit. You didn't kill him. Frank rolls his eyes and ties his shoes, being careful of his cracked ribs. Didn't need to, he said gruffly while he stands up slowly. Took a nasty fall the day before, but by this point, if he doesn't feel a dull ache on some part of his body, then he feels like something's missing. You didn't even hurt him. Oh no, he sounds proud. There was a guy beating the shit out of an old man. Frank had his guns out and aiming for his face. The guy was cursing loudly. His form was weak. The old man was squirming on the ground, covering his face. Frank puts away his guns and decides on immobilizing the guy, who doesn't resist much. He called the police. Apparently there was more to the scene than what meets the eye. Poor asshole was having a mental breakdown. The old geezer kept taunting him. Yes, but you always shoot first and ask questions second. This is improvement. He was being an asshole on purpose, but there was real feeling behind the words. Frank couldn't stand it. Shut it, Red. You don't know shit. Matt takes a step closer and tilts his head, then smacks him in the ribs. Matt is hurt, and it's all Frank's fault. He follows a lead directly into a trap that Daredevil tried to warn him about. There was an explosion. They both got caught in it. Matt took the brunt of it, using his body to cover a homeless man who was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Frank's ears are ringing as he drags Matt away from the smoke. The homeless man now safe and running away by himself. Daredevil was screaming, pressing his ears and making aborted movements. The frat came close. Matt latched onto him, hiding his face in the crook of his neck, inhaling deeply. Frank, he muttered hoarsely. Now that they've covered more ground, but Matt doesn't let go. Frank was basically carrying him away, barely registering the sirens himself. It's distressing that he doesn't know where to take Matt. Maybe Karen will be up for the task. Frank knows she won't deny helping Matt. Clinton Church, Frank. Matt repeats these words at different volumes, unaware of which one is correct. Frank squeezes the nape back of his neck, reassuringly to make him aware that he's got it. Matt inhales shakily, clinging tighter. Frank calls the number for St. Agnes. He had it since the night he met Amanda. They pick up the second try this time. Hello? Sister. Castle, what? I've got the devil. He is hurt. He hears a breath intake before he speaks again. Take him to the church. I'll be there. The gates are open and Sister Margaret is waiting for them. Pretty much wearing the same thing pretty much looking the same way when he first saw her. Wearing a long nightgown, her dark curls loose. Her expression is different, though, visibly anxious. She hurries them in and leads them to a room underground. Frank sets Matt onto a bed while Sister Margaret searches the place. Matt keeps clinging to him. He is shaking, vulnerable in a way that Frank has never seen him before. It's a heartbreaking thing to experience. The man without fear, so visibly scared. Someone who thrives from jumping off rooftop, who brings batons to gunfights and wins, is holding onto Frank like a lifeline. Frank tries to pull away once he feels Sister Maggie by his side. No, Frank, please, I can't see. Matthew nearly begs, trying to sit when Frank keeps trying to part himself from him. Sister Margaret caresses Matt's cheek and he sniffs at her wrist like a kitten, then promptly let go of Frank. Sister Maggie, he breathes, suddenly calm. She examines his ear canals with a flashlight and the rest of his body for wounds. He'll be all right, she says once she's done, tension slowly leaving her shoulders. He'll recover gradually. It's not the first time this has happened. The fear is mostly from trauma, and his hearing will be back to normal in a few hours. Frank gives his assent and makes to leave, but he hesitates at the stairs. Can you let me know? Sure. Frank can see that she wants to add something, so he remains where he is. She glances back at Matt, who patiently waits for her to return by his side, now out of his Daredevil suit, eyes closed. Matthew always insisted you were a good man. Her voice is steady as in her gaze. I didn't believe him fully. Not fully, until now. She walks away, her back to him, stops before saying, thank you. And then, if you wish to, you'd be welcome back here. You lived at St. Agnes, didn't you? That's how she knew you. It's been a week since the bomb. Through a short text, they agreed to meet outside this coffee shop. Frank is hiding under a hoodie and a cap and some decent stubble, and Matt is wearing his regular parson's suit while he holds what looks to be petroleum inside a coffee cup. Matt grins charmingly at him. I did. You remind me of her a bit. The subtle assholery. Guess I know where you got it from. Yeah, from my mom. Frank makes a double take. Your what? Your mom's is a nun? Sister Maggie is Matt's mother? Matthew smiles, nods, and takes a sip from his steaming cup of Anta Black. Frank gives him a sharp laugh. Oh, damn. Your family is so fucked up. No wonder you're such a freak. Matt doesn't take offense from this and shrugs. My life is made out of interesting little facts. Frank reflects that being sort of friends with the nun, mother of one of the weirdest and best guy he knows, might not be so bad, even if this is a scenario he never planned to find himself in. He brings wine the next time he goes to Clinton Church. Sister Maggie looks from the bottle with distaste, but pulls out a mug and drinks from it anyways, complaining it tastes like glorified vinegar, and if Matt's gonna make her drink alcohol, he might as well be a cheapskate. This is the exact sort of freaky behavior you can see Matt pulling. That's the end. That was great. Any suggestions for future